We'll now recognize the gentleman from coastal Louisiana, Mr. Landry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Calden, I can't help but sit here listening to all this and think about being down on the coast and growing up and doing a lot of fishing and having a lot of social interactions with commercial fishermen. And I can think of one old shrimper down in my district, Mr. Sharam. He's about 85 years old. You know, he got no formal education. And as y'all were talking, and to think if he would be sitting here, he'd probably look at me and say, you know, boy, just put a little more Clorox in the ballast and we could solve the problem. And it seems like that's exactly what you are saying, is that we, you know, we can spend millions of dollars trying to come up with processes to filter the water, but it seems like if we just put a little more Clorox in the ballasts, we do a lot more good and save a lot more money. Is that not what you kind of alluding to?
It's an interesting question. I'm going to pass this over to Dr. Swackhammer, who actually her committee looked at all of these various technologies. But I do appreciate I spend time at Grand Isle and at Cocodrie and along the Louisiana coast, and I appreciate those senses of those who are living and working and breathing along the coastline as to the more pragmatic strategies that we should take. But in fact, chemical control, although it wasn't something our committee looked at, has been looked at for ballast water management, and it has been considered to be a challenge, of course, as to chemically treating water. But let me pass that over to Dr. Swackhammer, whose committee looked at that question.
Mr. Landry, on a small scale, certainly using diluted bleach is a great way to clean your kitchen, but it's not a very good way to actually get at large volumes of ballast water. And the reason is the number of organisms and the number of particles in the water. So you have to go through multiple kinds of treatments to really, one, remove as many organisms as you can from some sort of physical filtration, and then you want to disinfect using
would you say that there's more ballast water than there are household sinks in this country?
No, I'm just saying that
I don't understand.
It's a small scale issue versus a large scale issue.
Well, it's a small scale issue if you look at it from a sink to a ballast, but if you go from a city to a ship, I think the amount that you put down the drain is probably more in the city than it would be in the ballast. But I guess my problem is that we seem to not be taking pragmatic approaches rather trying to look at something which I think y'all do a lot of, and that is to dream up what is the best case scenario to just filter the water to a point where, you know, even sometimes it seems like you're just going above and beyond what we need, and it strangles industry and it kills jobs, and that's my concern. Whether it's Clorox or some other agent that we could use, it just seems like y'all could come up with something that's a lot cheaper. Before I run out of time, I wanted to ask the Admiral, why is it, tell me what we could do to keep EPA from having to get involved in maritime vessels. I would rather keep enforcement of these issues strictly under the Coast Guard's supervision, just because I think that's where it belongs, and now we're paying for two agencies to basically do the same thing, and we can't seem to come to an agreement.
Well, sir, the way we've approached that is in cooperation with EPA. We've actually signed a memorandum of understanding.
Well, but I don't want y'all to cooperate. I just want to give it to you.
Well, I'll leave that to Congress, sir. But
okay.
But what we do is our people go out on the vessels. They're trained in what the EPA requirements are. And we act as detectors. You know, we wrap that into our normal requirements for inspection.
I wouldn't want them. I wouldn't want to task the Coast Guard with making sure that we enforce household, you know, sewage treatment facilities land-based. And that's my point. Is I don't want y'all to be doing their job and them to do your job. And I think that it would be better off where you are. But one quick before I got 20 seconds, Mr. Howland. You testified that approximately 69,000 domestic and foreign vessels which are subject to the permit requirement while in U.S. waters. Do you know how many of these regulated vessels are owned by the U.S. government?
I don't have that information. We can certainly get back to you for the record on that data.
Are these rules going? Are those government vessels going to have to adhere to the same guidelines as the private vessels, or are we going to exempt DoD vessels?
Under provisions of the Clean Water Act, military vessels are not subject to the 402 Clean Water Act permit.
And how about EPA
and there is
vessels?
a separate rulemaking process underway for military vessels.
So the Coast Guard vessels won't have to meet the same criteria as the private vessels. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. But EPA vessels, basically, we have a very limited number of vessels they have applied for and are complying with the permit.
But would they have to?
Yes, sir.
They would. So it's only
Only military vessels.
Okay. All right. I yield back.